If you have lost touch with the fans and what's being said and what's going on in the stands, how can you bridge that gap?
Well, what I want to do is bring 2 more directors on board for next season, probably associate directors, and bring 2 people in from the fan base. I want them to see what happens in the boardroom. I want them to be involved. I want them to be able to bring information back in terms of what we're not delivering to the fans. Have that authority to be able to change things, and also see all the management accounts, so can actually bring something to the table. They'll see everything that's going on in the football club, so there's nothing to hide. We have nothing to hide, and I repeat that every single time. We keep getting these things things being swept under the carpet. There is nothing to hide. Brought Michael Dunford in, who is he's a trustee on the EFL pension fund. He's a top person to bring into the club to help out. If I got anything to hide, I wouldn't have brought him in. Nigel Smith, great appointment. Again, he's brought into the club. He sees everything, and there is nothing to hide. But I want to bring 2 more fans in into the boardroom, and that's something that we'll be looking at over the next couple of months.
Will they?
And also, what I'd say on that as well is that one of those will be a female.
Will they have any scope to report back to the fan base? Obviously, a lot of what they hear will be said in confidential board meetings. So, how will the transparency work for the rest of the fan base?
I think that is important. I think obviously there are things that need to be remaining in a boardroom, and the sensitivity of certain things. But I would hope that those people would have more fans meetings, fans forums, and to be able to take things on a 2-way street, really, with communication going forward. And that I want that doing as well, obviously, with not involving me if I'm still here.
Let's talk about a takeover and ownership. What's the latest with the potential takeover that we've heard little bits about recently? And supporters want to know, can you provide any evidence that such a proposed deal exists?
I don't see what I need to do in terms of put any evidence forward that there is a potential takeover on the table. Dave Allen has gone out on the record of saying that he's shaking hands with somebody, and I've witnessed that. And as far as I'm concerned, that's all we need to do. In terms of where we are at the moment, I am in contact with a representative from the people that want to take over the football club, and I speak to them at least weekly. When they say to me, I will call you next week with an update on Tuesday, they call me on Tuesday. If they say I'll call you before the weekend, they call me before the weekend. I call them on ad hoc times to have a catch up. They answer the phone, we have conversations. They have selected a director of football that they would want to bring into the club. I talk to that director of football 2 or 3 times a week. Messages. They're currently looking at the team, the way that we play. They're looking at the goals. They're looking at everything. So they're very much involved already in the background with things. The only issue, obviously, is back to the finance side, and I am told that that everything should be in place any time now. In terms of backstop situation with this, myself and Dave Allen are really looking at this and saying, well, we have to move on if it doesn't happen by the end of the season. So by the last kick of last kick of this season, if it's not happened by then we have to seriously consider that it's not going to happen.
After Saturday, it could be confirmed that the club are relegated. So would any potential buyer not just come and say, well, we're going to offer you a reduced rate because the club's no longer worth the money that we...
The deal that has been agreed is a deal that is it's irrelevant as to what league we're in next year.
And a director of football Would you be concerned that your manager Jack Lester would see that as undermining his position?
No, I think that director of football role, I don't know exactly the ins and outs of what the brief is on that, but it's certainly to do with recruitment, and obviously that will be the main link to the board, but that's as much as I know in terms of where they are. It's their business going forward.
Could you guarantee that the stadium would be owned by the club, not Dave Allen personally, and the club would retain the stadium in any takeover?
I mean, the situation at the moment is that there is a £2 million mortgage in place. There is the first charge of the stadium is it goes to A&S Leisure. Dave Allen at no time has ever wanted to take the ownership of the stadium away from the football club. He could have taken it into A&S Leisure and had it as one of his stadium, brought it under his stadium manager with Overton Stadium or anything like that, but he's never wanted to do it. He always kept it separate. Obviously with an owner going forward, from the discussions that I have had to date, that is also the intention of the potential new owners to keep it within the football club. If that changed going forward, that's obviously outside my control.
Why did you specify to the Chinese consortium that you wanted a non-refundable deposit if you were prepared to give them their money back if they weren't happy with due diligence?
Well, I think it was just that we wanted some commitment from them, and it was not going anywhere. There was conversations and planned meetings were always getting cancelled. It would never happen. Somebody was coming up on a certain day, it never happened. We heard nothing for a week, we heard nothing for another week. So it was asked to actually give some commitment and put some money in the bank. And we asked for a fee and it was agreed, and they said it was no problem. It was the non-refundable deposit. It was always been that if they later found something in due diligence that they were not happy with, then we said that they would be able to have the money back. But it was kind of at the time we just wanted some kind of commitment from them. But they agreed it, and it never happened.
If they returned, if in perhaps the unlikely event that they returned to buy the club again, would you drop that demand?
I have been told that they may wish to come back at the end of the season and talk to us again. I'll talk to them again. But I think we are where we are now with this, so I would want some very firm commitment pretty soon that the money was there, whether it be in an escrow or something like that. But I don't believe at any time that single demand put paid to any deal or anything.
Moving on to club finances, we're told the playing budget is around 2 million, yet the accounted wage bill is over 4 million. Where is the balance going?
The wages bill is round about 2.2 million. That's purely just playing staff. After that, there is the coaching staff. That's less this year. Last year it was somewhere around about £350,000 to £400,000 for the coaching staff. The balance of the wages within the football club will be the non-match day staff, but there is quite a large figure, as I understand, in there as well of the casual staff as well. So they're not actually on the books all the time, but there's the wages with the conferencing and banqueting side, as well as the all the other staff within the football club.
A comment and a question. Most people can't understand why only in the last few months has the club recruited qualified and capable personnel, Michael Dunford and Nigel Smith, to administer the club. There still remains no financial expertise in place. No other multi-million-pound organisation would contemplate failing to staff correctly and manage the finances effectively. Why did we?
I think it was trying to run the club on a shoestring, basically, and trying to save money where we could. With hindsight, some of these roles was false economy. We had Chris Turner as chief executive. He undertook many of the roles, but it was the wrong decision at the time. I'm still happy with the way that the management accounts are sorted out. Shorts come in every month. They go through everything, and they do control a lot of the finance side for us and give us a very in-depth 28 pages every month of breakdown of all the figures within the club, so we know exactly where everything is, we know all the expenditure, we know where all the income is. Some of the figures that obviously in months gone by we're not very happy with, and those figures are now obviously going to be addressed going forward.
Could you put an approximate amount on how much axing the long list of managers, assistant managers, coaches, physios, CEOs or comparable figures, various other employees and board members has cost the club on Dave Allen's watch?
In terms of board members, it's not cost it's not cost anything. In terms of not cost the club anything. In terms of managers, it costs you money to bring a manager in, and it costs you money to get rid of the manager. And unfortunately, all the coaching staff change at the time. I would say $750,000 possibly as a rough figure, maybe $1 million.
Shareholders and supporters want closure on the numerous operational and financial scandals which have occurred whilst you have been CFC secretary. No mention of any of them has been made in annual accounts or by the CFC auditors. In detail, where are we with the FA inquiry and CFC involvement in the liquidation of the former development school, and how do you think their outcomes will affect the club in the future?
I spoke to the Director of Compliance at the EFL only about a week ago, and the FA investigations, nobody's heard anything at all. I am aware that the FA have spoken to Chris Turner, but other than that I don't know. So, and I've not chased it up with the FA at all. I'm amazed it's taken so long. It's the kind of alleged charges and everything else is not too complicated to try and work through, but I really don't know. So it's still looming, but exactly what the outcome would be, or if we're ever going to hear any further or not, I don't know.
And is the liquidator of the development school still pursuing a claim in the region of $100,000 against the club? Yeah.
We've entered into several rounds of correspondence with them about this. They maintain £100,000. We maintain it seriously less than that. There is a lot of grey area in terms of contra between the two, which is all just really messy and just was totally unnecessary. So yeah, we're still in dialogue with that, and what the outcome of that will be, I don't know. Many of the areas that they raised, we have been able to produce invoices on and show payment for, but it's yet to be resolved.
As a director, you're bound by the Companies Act. Therefore, ignorance is no defence. Who sanctioned the activities where a player used a false name and third-party payments to players? Which official at CFC authorised this?
Certainly nobody off the board, and all I can say is that anybody that was involved with that is no longer at the football club.
Moving on to the manager. Will Jack Lester definitely be manager next season, even if the club are relegated, as was recently stated in a press release?
Yeah, absolutely. I've spoken to Jack. We've obviously got more meetings to have in terms of where we're going forward with the club once we know the final fate, but from a boardroom perspective there's no reason at all to dismiss Jack.
Why was a rookie manager appointed and not a proven manager who's got teams out of relegation battles before?
I think at the time we spoke to Jack felt he was ready to take on the challenge. We appreciated at the time that he did need help, and from that point of view I asked him to bring some experience in with him. He interviewed, he went all around the country, interviewed probably 10, 15, 20 people before he brought Nicky Eden in. He then came back to me and said that he'd spoken to Tommy Wright and he thought that he would be able to help as well, and so we agreed to that. So in terms of Jack, we appreciated that he did need help, and he was a rookie manager, but I think that that the board backed him in terms of the additional staff that he's brought in.
We have, in my opinion, as a supporter writes, a top-heavy backroom staff. Surely investing in player recruitment would be better served.
I don't disagree with that, and this obviously is something that will be for discussion with Jack. He's already spoken to me about this in terms of recruitment, and thinks it's an area that we need to sort out. The biggest tragedy really for the club was losing our previous head of recruitment, and we've never really replaced him. So we need to deal with that going forward.
And just finally, at other clubs, we've seen a lot of protests, fans on the pitch, all kinds of things going on at what fans have seen at mismanagement. Do you feel that Chesterfield fans have been remarkably patient given what's gone on over the last 3 years?
Yes, I think they have, and but we know what is happening out there, and we know that the fans are unhappy. And I did say that relegation was not an option, and I honestly believe that, and that's why we put in the budget that we did for this year. We wanted the club to succeed. We still want it to succeed. But I do, and I thank the fans for that, because there has been a bit of chanting, but there really has been very, very little. And the fans deserve more at the end of the day, and that's what we've really got to make sure that happens next year.